During our marriage, I had a few meetups per month with my ex because I missed the size of his Johnson. Hey Reddit, sometimes we as humans make the most stupid mistakes. And then after we make those mistakes, only then do we realize how messed up it was and how wrong we were. I'm in a similar kind of situation now, and I've made a very horrible mistake. I genuinely do not know if there's any saving my marriage here, considering what I did was something my husband has been against and has never tolerated. It's his one deal breaker, and I went against his rules. My name is Jessica, and I am a 30-year-old woman. My husband's name is Adam, and he is 29. Adam and I have been married for about a year. Adam has a very good job in cybersecurity, while I used to work as a sales associate at a clothing store. Or at least I used to. Adam and I met in college. I won't lie and say it was love at first sight for me and my husband, or at least for me. My husband says it was love at first sight for him and that he fell in love with me from the first time he set his eyes on me. But it's not the same for me. You see, before my husband Adam, there was Ethan. Ethan and I were childhood friends, and for a long time, right from when we were kids, I was quite sure that Ethan was the one I would marry and spend the rest of my life with. We started dating right in middle school and all the way up until high school. I genuinely loved Ethan, and I guess a small part of me still loves him too. However, when we graduated, Ethan did not want to go to college and dropped out. I, on the other hand, wanted to go to college, and it's not like I've ever really been good at school or anything, but I just still wanted to try my best. I then realized that Ethan wasn't really serious with his life, and he had no ambition whatsoever. I couldn't spend the rest of my life with such a person. I wanted financial security. I wanted someone wealthy. So I had to do what was really painful, and I broke up with Ethan and cut ties with him. Then when I went to college, I met Adam, my husband. He was different from Ethan in many ways. Adam had a clear vision for his future, and he was determined to succeed. He was studying cybersecurity, which even back then I knew was a promising field. Adam's ambition and drive attracted me to him, and gradually I started developing some feelings for him. It wasn't a whirlwind romance or love at first sight, but it grew over time as I got to know Adam better. After we graduated from college, Adam and I continued dating up until a year ago when we got married. We would have gotten married earlier, but Adam wanted to expand his savings before then. That was something Ethan would have never thought about. Adam was everything Ethan was not, both financially and also in terms of intelligence. Things had been pretty good for us up until I started making the big mistake of withdrawing from Adam. Up until Ethan came back into my life, things were pretty great. Adam was a romantic person who knew how to make his partner happy. He took care of me and enjoyed doing so. He didn't bother me about finding a job when it was taking me a while to. Things were amazing between us. Communication was top-notch. The only downside was the sex. It was nothing to write home about, but I had always made do with it. We split the bills and chores in a way that worked for us. Adam took care of all the bills and I took care of all the chores. That was the system and way that worked for us. After a while of staying at home and searching for a job, I had been doing it quite half-heartedly. On one hand, I didn't want to be home all day as I knew I would get bored pretty quickly. On the other hand, others took care of everything, so I didn't feel a strong sense of urgency. However, I also knew that I needed something to keep me engaged and active. So I found my job, or at least the job that used to be mine. It was a perfect fit for me because the hours were really good, allowing me to have a balance between work and personal life. The only downside was that the pay wasn't much, but it was okay since I wasn't working primarily to earn money. I was working for the sake of having something to do, to keep me occupied and fulfilled. A few months back, I received a message from an anonymous account on social media. I was curious, so I replied, and soon enough I found out that it was Ethan. He told me that he had been searching for my number but couldn't find any of our old schoolmates who had it. The only way he finally found me was through social media. Ethan mentioned that he wanted closure, and he even seemed disappointed to find out that I had gotten married, which I found a bit surprising since he was married too. I was taken aback by his message. To be honest, I hadn't heard from Ethan since we parted ways in high school. After I broke up with him and cut ties, the last I heard was that he had left town. Hearing from him now, I was relieved to know that he was well and healthy, but a part of me also felt a rush of emotions, missing him and realizing that I still loved him. Ethan suggested meeting up for closure, but I refused. It didn't feel appropriate given that I was married. I told Ethan that while I appreciated his desire for closure, meeting in person wouldn't be the right decision. He relented and suggested that we at least keep in touch, to which I agreed. It felt like the right compromise because it allowed us to maintain a connection without crossing any boundaries. If I had known that I would get this attached, I would have never even replied to that message. Because after that, Ethan and I started talking. Initially, it was a bit awkward, just a few hays and talking about life, reminiscing on our high school days and the memories we shared. But soon enough, our conversations became more frequent and regular. We started chatting every day, sharing updates about our lives, discussing our past experiences, and even talking about married life. It was strange yet comforting to reconnect with someone who had been such a significant part of my life before. Despite my initial reservations, I found myself opening up to Ethan and enjoying our conversations. And as time went by, our chats became even more intimate, and we started talking out our emotions. I found myself getting emotionally invested in our exchanges, and I started reliving old feelings and memories. Ethan and I continued talking even more, and I realized just how much I had missed him. Our conversations became so frequent and entertaining, to the extent that I couldn't even put down my phone when my husband was at home. I was always waiting for Ethan to reply, always waiting for his reactions to the funny videos I sent him and vice versa. It got to the point where my husband must have noticed, or at least I think he did. Sometimes I would catch him looking at me curiously, especially when I laughed out loud at something Ethan had said or sent. I could sense him silently questioning me, but he never directly asked me anything about it. Despite the guilt and unease I felt about hiding my conversations with Ethan from Adam, I couldn't seem to stop. It got to a point when Ethan started suggesting that we meet up in person, and I agreed. At that point, I genuinely believed that Ethan and I were just friends reconnecting, catching up on lost time. I convinced myself that meeting up as friends wouldn't be a problem, that it was a harmless gesture of rekindling our old friendship. I ignored the nagging doubts and the warning signs and brushed off any concerns about the nature of our relationship. After all, Ethan had expressed wanting closure initially, and I saw meeting up as a way to provide that closure and move on as friends. But deep down, I guess I must have known that there was more to it, but the excitement of seeing Ethan again didn't even let me think. I guess it usually starts slow for everyone, or at least it did for me. Ethan and I kicked things off by hanging out, hitting up some old spots we used to frequent, and checking out places that brought back memories. It was like stepping back in time, reliving moments we hadn't thought about in ages. It was all about reminiscing, swapping stories, and cracking up over old inside jokes. We just enjoyed being around each other again, soaking in the nostalgia and marveling at how much life had changed since our school days. Those moments felt easy and comfortable, like catching up with an old friend over a cup of coffee. We appreciated those times, grateful for the chance to reconnect and see where life had taken us. But I guess reality started to blur a bit. Spending more time with Ethan brought back memories that hit me like a wave. It felt like I was transported back to high school, reliving those carefree days with him. The laughter, our shared secrets, the comfort of his presence. It all flooded back, and I realized just how much I had missed him. I missed him a lot. It was like I had stepped into a time machine, revisiting a chapter of my life that I thought was closed. The nostalgia was bittersweet, and it reminded me of simpler times and the deep connection I once had with Ethan. I found myself longing for those days, wishing I could turn back the clock and relive those moments again. At that point, I had started skipping work just to spend more time with Ethan. It had gotten that bad. I was consumed by every waking moment with him, especially when my husband wasn't around. All the while, it felt like I was drifting further from my husband. The more time I spent with Ethan, the more distant I became from Adam. Ethan and I moved from hanging out in public places to more intimate settings like our houses. It was a gradual shift, one that I didn't fully realize until later. As I grew more comfortable with Ethan, our conversations became more relaxed and familiar. We laughed together and enjoyed each other's company in a way that felt effortless. Being with him again made me realize that although I didn't love him as intensely as before, I still missed him. I'm sorry for rambling, but I'm sure you already know where this is heading. Ethan and I would often hang out at our houses when our partners were out. I'm sure you already know where this is headed. The more time we spent at our respective houses, the closer we got. Then one afternoon, we crossed the line and slept together, cheating on our partners. It was a moment of weakness. I just missed how great the sex with Ethan was. Afterward, I expected to be racked with guilt, but honestly, I felt more pleasure than anything else. I had mentioned before that my husband was just okay in bed, but Ethan's skills made me realize what I had been missing. Despite not feeling much guilt initially, I knew deep down that what I had done was wrong. I didn't want a repeat of it. I told Ethan that it could never happen again, that we could only remain friends if we avoided crossing that line. He agreed, and for a while we tried to resist the temptation. But of course, temptation is a powerful force. Before I knew it, we were caught up in a full-blown affair. And that's how my affair with Ethan started. By then, I had skipped work so often that I ended up getting fired. I didn't have any solid excuses, and my lack of skill in lying didn't help either. But I was so deeply entangled in my thing with Ethan that I didn't even care about losing my job. Despite being jobless, I made sure to keep it a secret from Adam. I continued going over to Ethan's house, using the pretext that I was heading to work. Ethan's wife had a demanding job and was often away, making it easier for us to carry on without being discovered. It was like a perfect setup for us, with no one around to question our whereabouts. To add to the secrecy, I didn't share my location with Adam. Everything just seemed to fall into place conveniently for us, and it allowed our affair to flourish in the shadows without any immediate consequences. Keeping the fact that I had lost my job was quite challenging, especially when Adam eventually found out. It happened through a mutual friend who happened to shop at the store where I used to work. She discovered that I no longer worked there and mentioned it to Adam, who of course confronted me about it. He was shocked and disappointed that I hadn't told him about losing my job. He questioned me about where I went every time I left the house and pretended I was going to work. Adam expressed how distant I had become lately, and I could see the concern and hurt in his eyes. In response, I apologized and spun another lie, claiming that I was just ashamed to tell him about losing my job. I told him I went to the mall instead of work, hoping to alleviate his suspicions. When he mentioned my distance, I brushed it off, telling him he was overthinking things and that everything was fine between us. Then my husband suggested we try couples therapy, but I shut it down right away. So instead, Adam decided to cut back on work hours and started working majorly from home to spend more time with me, trying to mend the growing gap between us. While his effort was appreciated, it also meant I couldn't see Ethan as much. Honestly, that should have been my cue to end things with Ethan. I could have walked away clean, no strings attached. But the truth was, Adam's bedroom skills were lacking, and Ethan's tool just kept drawing me back. So despite the limited chances we had to meet, I kept seeing Ethan. It boiled down to just a few times a month, mostly for sexual needs. Sometimes I'd wait for Adam to be out, or I'd cook up excuses like a trip to the mall or groceries to sneak over to Ethan's place when his wife wasn't around. This routine went on for a good few months. Whenever the urge hit, I made sure to find a way to meet up with Ethan for some physical satisfaction. I started feeling like I was pretty clever, like I had this whole affair under wraps and there was no way Adam would catch on. Man, was I wrong. I got a bit cocky, thinking I had outsmarted any chance of getting caught. It was like I was playing a game of cat and mouse with reality, and I was convinced I was winning. But as they say, pride comes before a fall. My world came crashing down when my husband finally caught up to me, and let me tell you, his reaction was like a sledgehammer. It all went down just a day ago. I hadn't seen Ethan for about a week, and he had gone completely off the grid. I started to panic, so I cooked up a story for Adam saying I needed to run to the grocery store. I knew Ethan's wife would likely be out at that time, so I would meet Ethan alone at home. But when I got to Ethan's place, guess who opened the door? His wife, and she looked very angry and like she'd seen a ghost. She laid it all out for me, saying Ethan wasn't around and that I was not welcome there ever again. I was stunned, speechless, but I didn't even stick around to argue. I just hightailed it to the grocery store, trying to act normal. I was hoping to grab a few items to make my story believable to Adam. But here's where it gets really messy. At the checkout, my card decided to play games, but it was getting declined over and over. That sinking feeling hit me hard. It wasn't until I stepped out of the store and checked my account that I realized everything had been wiped clean. That's when the panic really set in. I raced home, my mind racing even faster. I needed Adam to sort things out with the bank, but as soon as I got there, I knew something was terribly wrong. My stuff was scattered on the porch, and there was Adam looking very angry. The moment I stepped up to the house, Adam was all business. He didn't waste a second in demanding his keys back. He sounded very angry, but looked calm. Adam then told me that he didn't want to hear excuses or explanations. He just wanted me out of his sight. His words were like daggers, each one cutting deeper than the last. He didn't hold back. He blamed himself for being too trusting and letting my affair go, calling me ungrateful. And then came the gut punch. Adam dropped the bombshell. We were getting a divorce. It was like a slap in the face, I tried to explain, to stop him from going inside, but he brushed past me like I was nothing. He pushed me aside, locking the door behind him, shutting me out completely. After Adam had locked the door behind me, reality started to hit me like a ton of bricks. Everything had happened so fast that my mind couldn't keep up. It dawned on me. I was homeless and my husband wanted a divorce. The realization of that brought a flood of confusion and guilt, and I couldn't even hold back tears from streaming down my face. I started crying badly. I loved Adam. I didn't want to lose him or our life together. I started banging on the door. I was desperate for him to open up, to give me a chance to explain, to plead for forgiveness. But he remained stubborn. He didn't even answer. When my banging persisted, he finally spoke up and warned me that he would call the police if I didn't leave immediately. That was when fear gripped me and I knew I had to go. In a state of panic, I started dialing Ethan's number. I was hoping against hope that he would be my lifeline. But there was no answer. No comfort from the one person I thought could understand. My next attempt was reaching out to friends, but it seemed luck was not on my side. No one was willing to house me or even chip in for an Uber. Just when I felt like I had hit rock bottom, my younger brother came through. He came over within minutes, picked me up, and took me to his place. He offered me a place to stay temporarily, but he made it clear it wouldn't be a long-term arrangement and I would eventually have to leave. Still, I was grateful for any help that I could get, so I didn't protest. I am so confused, Reddit, I don't even know what to do. Any advice would really be appreciated. Is there any way I can save my marriage? I don't want to lose my husband, please. Help. Update.
Hey, Reddit.
I know I messed up big time by cheating, and I don't have any excuses for my actions. The hate comments and DMs are overwhelming, and I get it. I don't deserve any sympathy. But please, give me a chance to explain. A lot of you are saying I sound nonchalant and that I miss Ethan. Let me clarify. I don't miss Ethan. It was the physical aspect that kept me going back, not any emotional attachment. I feel incredibly guilty for betraying my husband, and I'm truly sorry. To answer some questions, yes, I do feel guilty, and no, I haven't found another job since I got fired. Ethan doesn't have a job either. He was searching but hadn't found yet, which is why his wife is the main provider. That was why he had so much free time to spend with me. As for my husband, I'm trying to reach out and talk things through, but he's not responding to my messages or calls. It's tough, and I'm constantly crying, but I'm holding on to hope since he hasn't even blocked me yet. I believe that we can work through this together if only he listens to me. If my husband forgives me, I want us to work on our sex life together. Maybe explore new things like using toys to make things better between us. I know I messed up and I won't cheat again. I just wanted to address some of the common questions and the hate comments. I'm not proud of what I did, and I'm facing the consequences every day. Thanks for reading. Update. Hey Reddit, I'm back, though it's only been a few days since my last update. The hate train is still going strong, but I expected that. Some of you were asking for an update, so here it is. First off, I saw some comments wishing my husband would find out about all this, but thankfully he's not on social media, so that won't happen that way. As for Ethan, I still haven't heard anything from him. I'm starting to get worried, so I asked a mutual friend to check in with his wife for me. So hopefully I'll have an update on that soon and I'll fill you guys in. On the home front, things are still strained. My husband is not responding to any calls or messages. It's taking a toll on me and I'm feeling more depressed by the day. My brother, who's letting me stay for now, has made it clear that it's only temporary. I'm grateful I didn't even think he would help me as we've had our differences in the past. I haven't reached out to my family because our relationship is rocky, to say the least. They wouldn't take me in, and the same goes for my husband's family. It feels like everyone hates me right now. I've also seen questions about why I'm broke when I used to work. The truth is, I didn't save much because I didn't have to worry about bills. Adam took care of that. I spent my paycheck on things I wanted without thinking about the future. It was a mistake, and now I'm facing the consequences. It's a very tough situation to be in. From a comfortable marriage to possibly being homeless in a few weeks, it's a harsh reality check. All I want is for my husband to at least talk to me and take me in, even if it's just temporary until I get back on my feet. Thanks for reading, Reddit. Update. Hey Reddit, it's me again with a bit of an update on the Ethan front. I finally heard from our mutual friend and the news isn't great. Ethan's wife kicked him out of the house. She's apparently been looking for him to serve him with divorce papers because she found out about our affair and spilled the beans to Adam. So that mystery is solved. I'm still trying to wrap my head around everything. Now I realize Adam wanted me to leave the house that day so he could throw my things outside. But I don't understand why he didn't just talk to me about it before taking such a drastic step. Speaking of Adam, I still haven't received any replies from him. It's been radio silence on his end. I've decided to take matters into my own hands and go back to our house to confront him. Maybe face-to-face communication will help clear the air. It's been a rough ride, and I know the hate bandwagon is still rolling strong. I appreciate those of you who are listening and trying to understand. Thanks for reading. Update. Hey Reddit, it's me again with a mini update because I am currently in tears. Posting here feels like a little refuge despite all the hate, so here I am pouring my heart out. I just got back from what used to be my house, or rather Adam's house now. Remember how I said I was going there to have a face-to-face conversation with him? Well, let me tell you how that went. At first, he wouldn't even open the door. It was like I was invisible. I kept knocking and ringing the doorbell until he finally emerged. The anger in his eyes was clear, and I knew I was in for it. I tried to apologize and explain that I needed to talk to him, and the only option I had was coming here since he wouldn't answer my call or messages. But he wasn't having any of it. Adam unleashed a rain of words on me. He told me in no uncertain terms that forgiveness wasn't on the table. He called me stupid for even thinking he would forgive me after months of cheating. It was a harsh reality check, hearing it all from him. He mentioned how he found out thanks to Ethan's wife and how he's already preparing divorce papers and that I would be served soon. He made it crystal clear that he didn't want any communication from me, not even a visit, or else he'd involve the authorities and file a restraining order. With that, he went back inside and just left me standing there feeling completely shattered. I had to leave. I felt defeated and heartbroken. The weight of guilt and regret is crushing. I miss my husband terribly, and the realization that I'll soon be evicted from my brother's place adds to the stress. I now realize that I need to find a job fast so I can afford a place to stay when the time comes. Thanks for reading, Reddit. It means more than you know. Update. Hey Reddit, back with another update. It's been quite a roller coaster lately. I appreciate the sympathy and support I've been getting. It really means a lot during these tough times. Today was particularly rough. I got served with divorce papers. Many of you advised me to sign them when they come, and that's exactly what I did. It was a painful moment. Tears were streaming down my face as I signed them. Signing those papers felt like the final nail in the coffin of my shattered marriage. I can't help but feel crushed and resentful towards Adam. Yes, I feel regret for what I've done, but also resentment towards Adam. I know I messed up, but I would have done anything to make it right. Why couldn't he just give us a chance to work through this? Why didn't he even want to try working on our marriage? Why did he jump straight to divorce after my mistake? I would have done anything to make things right, to earn his forgiveness, but it seems like that ship has sailed. The pain of losing him is unbearable at times. On the brighter side, I'm diving headfirst into job searching. I'm willing to take whatever job comes my way. It's like a step towards independence, and I'm scared of it. I've depended on Adam for so long, I don't even know how I'll survive on my own. Thanks to those who have been understanding and supportive. It's been a rough journey, but I'm taking it one day at a time. Update. Hey Reddit. The hate's still coming strong, but aside from that, I've been grateful for the little support and understanding that some of you have shown. I've also received some encouraging messages, and I want to express my gratitude for that support. It's been helping me cope and move forward. As for updates, there isn't much to report as I'm still in the waiting phase of the divorce proceedings. It's a slow and emotionally taxing process, but I'm trying to stay positive. Something interesting I've noticed is how my story has been circulating on platforms like TikTok and YouTube. It's strange seeing my life play out in videos online, sometimes even distorted or sensationalized. I admit I've peeked at some of these videos just to see if there are any new developments or if anything's been missed. However, I've learned to steer clear of the comment sections. They're also filled with hate comments about me, and everyone is always blaming me. On a brighter note, I have a job interview coming up. It would really help me so much, so fingers crossed that it goes well. Many of you have been curious about Ethan, and I want to assure you that I haven't given up on trying to reach him. I'm genuinely concerned about his well-being, and I'll definitely share an update if I manage to get in contact with him. Thanks for all the continued support and well wishes, no matter how little they may be. It's what's keeping me going through these tough times. Wish me luck for the interview. Update. Hey Reddit, it's been a while since my last update, and that's because a whirlwind of events has kept me busy and on my toes. Let me fill you in on what's been happening. Firstly, a lot of you kept asking for an update on this. No, I didn't get the job I interviewed for. It's disappointing, but I understand that not every opportunity is meant for me. It is what it is, I guess. Life goes on. On the Ethan front, he finally responded to my messages. However, it wasn't the reunion I hoped for. He's moved on and doesn't want to revisit our past. He told me that he was fine and well and that he wouldn't really like to be in contact with me now. He said that I was the reason why he got kicked out and that everything that happened was my fault. He said that he's with his new girlfriend now and he lives with her and he would really not like to be kicked out again, as after his wife kicked him out, he was homeless until he met his girlfriend. So I guess there's that. All this while I was worried that something bad had happened to him and he was just the one that didn't want to talk to me. So I guess that mystery is finally solved. I do think it's a bit crazy he's blaming me for this when he was the cause of everything. Regarding the divorce, things are progressing. In my state, there's a mandatory 1-year separation period before finalizing a divorce, unless it's filed under grounds like infidelity. Adam chose the latter, expediting the process to about 2 months. I have to face the consequences of my actions in court, and the odds aren't in my favor given the weight of infidelity in legal proceedings in my state. Living arrangements have been a challenge too. I stayed with my brother for a while, but it became clear that I was imposing. His girlfriend is moving in soon. She is going to be splitting the rent with him, and space is limited. I'm currently couch surfing at a friend's place, but it's temporary. I'm actively searching for a job that offers accommodation. Any leads or recommendations would be greatly appreciated. If I don't land a job soon that comes with a place to stay or at least some support, my only option might be crashing at my parents' place. It's not my top choice, especially since they're pretty mad at me for what I did. But I have to do what I have to do to avoid being out and homeless on the streets. Heading back to my parents' house is a bit of a mixed bag. I know they'll probably let me stay there for a bit despite everything, but it'll be awkward. There's still a lot of tension and hurt feelings because of what happened, me cheating. The idea of being homeless is scary as heck. It's like a wake-up call to how much my choices have messed things up for me. I'm searching hard to find a job with a roof over my head, but it's tough out here. Life has been a roller coaster, and I can't even find the strength to stay hopeful. Thanks for reading and for the hate and support, Reddit. Update. Hey Reddit, it's been quite a while, hasn't it? Apologies for the long silence. I left things hanging, and I'm here now to fill you in on what's been going on. Firstly, the reason for my absence was that I lost my phone. It wasn't one of those fancy ones that you can track, so once it went off the grid, I was out of luck. So I had to bite the bullet and get a new one. You're probably wondering how I managed that with my financial situation. Well, I had to swallow my pride and head back to my parents' place. I spent about a week crashing on friends' couches while job hunting, but the jobs I found were just soul-crushing and most didn't even offer temporary accommodation. Finally, I accepted that going home was my best bet, and that was how I ended up back at my parents' place. It was very rough, especially with all the anger and blame directed at me for my past mistakes. But after some intense conversations and me confronting them, things cooled down a bit. They're still horrible, but not as much as before. They're letting me stay, but not without a cost. They're charging me rent retroactively, which I'll pay off once I start getting paid from my new job. Speaking of which, I did manage to land a job. It's not the dream job, but it pays the bills. My first paycheck will likely go straight to my parents to cover the debt I owe them. But hey, it's a step forward. Now on to the big topic, my divorce. Yep, it's official. I got zilch from it. Not the house, not alimony, not even one of the cars. The judge didn't exactly throw me a bone, probably because of the whole cheating thing. It's still very painful to think about, but I'm trying to move forward. I even heard Adam got a promotion, and I reached out to Adam to congratulate him, but he didn't respond. I'm holding on to a glimmer of hope that maybe, someday we can at least be civil. My parents, however, think I'm being too optimistic and that I should just focus on myself. I've gotten a lot of hate and blame, but also some much-needed support and advice from this community. Things are still tough, but at least I'm not on the streets anymore. Thanks for sticking with me, Reddit.